Hi, welcome to PCW Rewind. I'm your host, CQ. This is where we get to take a look back at some of my all-time favorite interviews and guest appearances from my live show, Pop Culture Warrior. Just so you know, you can catch us live every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on pretty much every social media platform. All you got to do is search for WTF Nation Radio. Now, if you like this interview, go check out the pages because we have a ton more for you to enjoy. Now, in this episode, we are going way back in time. I think this was only my second guest ever on the show, and boy, howdy does it show. The interview was incredible, but you got to bear with me because we were still figuring things out back then. This was kind of before I figured out how to pull in the guest video onto the live stream. Plus, we were having a bunch of technical issues that night. We lost video a few times. And because of that, I wanted to compile this all into one place where, I could have the video in one spot instead of like the 3 different chunk videos that we had posted back then when we were able to put it up. But you know what? Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, all that mattered was that I got to sit down, talk to a very good friend of mine, and we had a blast. He's an incredibly funny comedian who has literally performed around the world. You might even have seen him in one of his many attempts at stage 1 of American Ninja Warrior. And on top of that, he's a military veteran, which, we love that around here. One other lesson I did learn is that make sure your guest is always muted when you're doing their intro. So, enough talk. Let's get right to it. Without further ado, I give you the Pop Culture Warrior interview of my good friend, comedian PJ Walsh. So, it says...
Oh, wait, this is the introduction?
I'm going to try it. Are you good?
Okay, let me get a bucket because I'm probably going to throw up. Because it's about me. I don't want to...
Yeah, okay, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen. So, as a first-generation Irish-American with a blue-collar upbringing, comedian PJ Walsh is instinctively aware of the power of laughter and its ability to transcend generations. Regarded as one of the hardest-working comics behind the microphone, he's known for his quick wit, boundless energy, his often insightful observations on the things he cherishes most, the military, family, and being a goddamn American. He's a veteran of the U.S. Navy. He discovered his talent for comedy while stationed in Bethesda. Everybody, give it up for our man, the legend, PJ Walsh. What's up, buddy?
Oh, my God. Who put that thing together? Ugh.
I might have cited a couple sources. It's okay. It's all good.
God, way too many.
Yeah, buddy, man. Like, okay, there's so much I want to cover with you. I mean, obviously, for the folks at home that unfortunately don't know PJ Walsh, because you're gonna know him after this. You are a Navy veteran.
Wait, how many people got on there? Like all of us. None of us know him. I don't know why this guy.
There's like 6 people watching. It's fine. Somebody might know you. They might have heard of you. So you're Navy veteran.
Dude, I love it.
Navy veteran. You were and remind me, it was dental. What was the?
I was a dental technician.
Dental technician.
My first 3 years I was with Marines at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. Spent 6 months in the Persian Gulf, kind of as a cleanup crew, I guess you would say, after the first Gulf War, and I got trained as a field medic as well. And then my last 3 years, I was at Bethesda Naval Hospital, and I ended up being a primary dental technician for the first and second families at the White House and all the troops at Camp David. So I actually worked on the president's mouth.
Which president?
President Clinton. So ironically, I was in charge of the president who hands down has the most famous oral history. So there's a bit of irony there.
Yeah, there's comedy there for days. We always talk about in comedy, it's like, can you mine it? Can you dig into that? Can you like that just one sentence, I was President Bill Clinton's oral hygienist, whatever. Like you could do a 1 hour special on that, I'm sure.
You know what's funny? When I first started stand-up, I used to try to talk about it all the time. And it's just, I guess I looked so young, it just didn't work. People were like, get out of town, like, would they let you near the president? So then And then, as I got older, I was able to talk about it. And what's funny is sometimes I'll end up doing cruise ships once in a while, and I'll do like Holland, and they have an older demographic. So when I bring it up too, that whole group's like, I don't think so.
Okay, so you're Navy veteran, dental I keep on saying dental hygienist. That's just like the term technician, dental technician.
Yeah, whatever. Teeth.
You were in the White House. You did that. You were on Star Search. Am I wrong with that?
No, I was on Star Search, not the Ed McMahon. This was the Arsenio Hall Star Search.
That's right.
And it was 2003. And they were trying to it went live. So my very first time on television was live, like you were doing right now, and everybody watched at home. I told a joke. I talked about going to Navy boot camp with guys who didn't know how to swim.
Right.
That was my joke. And one of the judges called me unoriginal.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was awful. It was a bad experience. And then I'll say this, though, Master P and Little Romeo, I remember they were there, and they loved me. So I was like, whatever, Master P and Little Romeo dig me. And but then right after, this lady called me, unoriginal, and they just that. So right after it ends, and go to a commercial, and Arsenio Hall looks at me and goes, I forget her name. He goes, well, I guess she knows a lot of dental technicians who went to boot camp, but people don't know how to swim in the Navy. I guess that's common. So I go outside to to walk around the parking lot, and I get a phone call from my mom, and my mom is like, put that wench on the phone. I want to have a talk with that wench. My mom wants to go fisticuffs with this lady. She's like, you have an original life, PJ. I'm like, I think she's a little busy, Mom. And then maybe 2 minutes after that, I get another phone call, and it's one of my best friends from high school. And he's like, it's my Freddie. And he's like, yo, man, me and all the boys were all around the TV set. We're watching. We watched you. Very proud. It was so cool to see you. I got to tell you, though, our favorite part is when she ripped you, dude. You should have saw your face, man. We're playing it back and forth. It is awesome. We got it documented, dude. We were laughing so hard. So I was like, that's friends, baby. That's friends.
Isn't that what it's all about, man, right? Is when you really, care with people and you're friends, especially when it comes to military veterans, we go ham, man. We go for the feelings. We go for the nerves. You want to hurt somebody.
Dude, military friends are they're kids. You know how kids have no filter and they just see something in you and they'll just go around. I remember when I was on the ship and Terminator 2 came out, and Robert Patrick, who was the liquid guy, whenever I walked, hey, here's Walsh, here's a T-1000, here comes the T-1000, T-1000's coming, he's going to get you with his freaking liquid finger, watch out, they're like kids, they can't help it, whatever they see, they go right at it, and it's natural to become a comedian after that.
Absolutely. I have a good, I won't name names, but I have a good person I know in my life who just wrapped up basic training in the Air Force. And one of the pieces of advice I gave is, if there's anything you're sensitive about, don't put it out there, because they will take it, they will hammer it home. And so this person was called me, and they're like, oh my God, I just clogged up one of the toilets in the barracks. And I guess it's after basic, you're in the tech school of it, so it's more I guess, I don't know, it's like barracks room, right? You're rooming, but and they're like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, don't make it a big deal. Don't freak. If you freak out, they're going to know you freaked out. They're going to hammer you on that. And that's it. That you are that person moving forward. So you got to be it's no big deal, so nobody rags you on it, right? Am I right with that? Do you agree?
You dropped for a second there, but I think what your point was that, yeah, the minute you do something wrong or you can be labeled, that's it.
Yeah. Exactly. So that was good advice. So, okay. So you did the Star Search. I mean, there's so much, dude. I sat here and I dug in on you, and there's just so much there.
There is?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me tell you something. I'm the same way. Where I'm like I'm nobody. I haven't done anything interesting in my life. But you know, the minute you start Googling and then click on this and click on that, and it takes you to this, takes you that. I'll let me remind you. Let me remind you of some of the things that you're known for.
I'm not a big. I don't Google myself, so this should be interesting.
Well, I Googled you for you. So obviously, okay. So we came up with the dental thing. We came up with the Star Search thing. You toured with Larry the Cable Guy. You opened for Larry the Cable Guy. That's huge. That's huge. Tell us about that.
I was with Larry. So I ended up opening for all those guys. I think I'm the voice. I'm the announcer on Blue Collar 2, and to something at 3, and a little bit of behind the scenes for the Jeff Foxworthy roast. But through Larry's like when he was at his height, like his what was the name of the tours? I think Morning Constitutions and Right to Bear Arms.
Right.
I mean, he was. I pretty much was with the Cable Guy from when he was doing. Like, he started like 600 seats, and like Blue Collar took off. Like, it went to Comedy Central. It released it as a movie and didn't really do that well. But then it went to Comedy Central. It blew up. And I was with Larry as that momentum started to take place. And it went from like 600 seats to 1,000 seats to doing like 1,200, 1,500 seat theaters, and then doing that twice a night, and then to like these hockey arenas where it's 5,000 seats, and then it was just full, huge arenas where it was like 15,000. And what was great about it is I got to become comfortable in each one of those stages because
right.
You know, he was gracious enough to bring me along and ask me and have me be his opening act through all that. So, and I got to watch him. I mean, it's very interesting to watch somebody become a star, become a superstar, you know, and every comic at that time hated Get Her Done. They were like, whenever, for a lot of that time I was living in New York City too, Los Angeles and New York, and comics just hated Get Her Done, and they'd be like, every time I'm on stage, they yell at me. I'm like, you think you hear it as much as I do?
That's true.
But it was great. It was one of those crazy experiences, and culminated in a lot of things that I never thought I would do. I lived on a tour bus for years, and then it culminated in my very last show with them was at Radio City Music Hall. And when I was a kid, my dream was to perform at Radio City Music Hall. My sisters were Irish step dancers. I grew up in New York, and so Radio City Music Hall is like the biggest thing you could do, in my opinion. And every year my sisters would do a Irish step dancing show at Radio City Music Hall, and we would go and set up, my dad and I would go down and set up the stage for him and stuff. And I remember standing on the stage and looking at how big it was. And I said to my father, man, I must have been like 8 or 9 or something. And I was like, I'm going to perform here one day, Dad. I'm going to perform here. And my Irish dad goes, you have to have a talent. You don't have any talent. You have 0 skills. Not gonna happen. You know? So then cut to like my last show with Larry the Cable Guy. My dad's there, he's in the 4th row, you know, watching me, and the show was amazing. And after it, we're walking across the street going to like a pub in New York, and halfway across the street my dad turns to me and goes, hey man. I go, what? He goes, I'm proud of you. I go, excuse me? He goes, you heard me. And he walks off.
Hey, that's that. But you got it. You know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of people don't even get that. So, you know, that's something.
I'm a big believer in that kind of stuff. Like, you can manifest certain things. Like, I'm a big believer. Like, take a shot at the basket. You might not get a swish, but if you hit the rim, you know, it's pretty cool. Like, there's certain things like that. You know, I got to be in a movie. I always wanted to be in a movie. I got to. I had a radio show for a while. Like, all those kind of things. And I'm not. I'm one of these guys. Like, once I check it off, I'm cool. You know, I'm like, okay. I get bored really, really fast. So, like, for some reason I get bored really fast. People are like, oh, I want to keep doing that. I was like, yeah, I got to perform at Radio City Music Hall. All right, what am I going to do next? I
have all the respect in the world for you. And I we met through ASAP, and we could talk about that too. But just getting to hang out with you, I got to perform before you, and we went up to Boston, the Hartford Funny Bone, and do that. Yeah, so and getting to spend that time with you and talk to you, like, I was like, man, I see so much of like myself and my personality, and we had these conversations and talked about comedy and these different things, and I was like, I'm very much the same way, where I'm like okay, I got to do stand up, but in like, I'm not the guy that's going to be touring. I'm just not. I got the family, I got the job, I got the kid, but like I like I got to do it. It was awesome. I checked it off. You know, I've climbed mountains, checked that off. I went to war, checked that off. I've flown a plane, checked it. Scuba dive. Like I'm constantly checking things off. And it wasn't until kind of this happened. And let me just say real quick, I have to thank you because not only is some of my best comedy come from our conversations, but me getting to do this pop culture radio show, which I'm so happy with and I love doing, and it's one of the first few things where I'm like, oh, I could see myself doing this for a while. This became because of you, believe it or not. This was because of you. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, no, I didn't.
Yeah. Okay. So for the folks at home, I started doing stand-up because I joined a program called ASAP, Armed Services Arts Partnership. It trains veterans, family members, spouses, all that to do comedy free of charge. It's a great program. Absolutely phenomenal. Did the boot camp, performed at the DC Improv. I mean, legendary stage, performed, got to do a bunch of other stuff. And then met PJ through, you know, he's an ambassador for the program. You do a lot of what do they call you? The artist. I think I'm on the Artist Council. The title always changes. I think I'm part of the Artist Council now. You're a member of the Artist Council. You know, ambassador, dictator, whatever. You're something with ASAP. But your face is on one of the awards. I know that. So that's an honor right there. Your face is on an award.
There's awards named after me.
Yeah, the PJ Award. Yeah.
PJ Walsh Award for service and other nice things. I think it's something like that. Yeah. I hope to one day have a PJ. I really do. I hope to have a PJ of my own one day. So hopefully I can earn one. But you know what? There's a lot of people out there. I know Larry the Cable Guy, Bill Engvall, Jeff Matt Eisen is one of my best friends, and I think they all got Emmys. But I mean,
hey, if you ain't got a PJ, you ain't
having a PJ. Yeah. You got to get yourself a PJ.
Okay, put it this way. How many hundreds of thousands of people have Emmys, right? They're everywhere. Everybody's got an Emmy, an Oscar, a Grammy. How many people got PJs? I'm just saying. Like, it's a limited number.
They give that to Benari Polton's one of my best buds, right, at Gotham Comedy Club. So I came to Gotham Comedy Club when they were giving it to him. And I walked up and I handed it to him, and I was just like, the fact that one of my best friends is going to have my face staring at him in his living room at some point. And Benari had the best response, and he grabs the award and he goes, "Oh, PJ, the things you're going to see."
Yes. See, that's the comedy of it. So going back, so I got to do all this stuff. I met PJ. They asked, "Hey, does anybody want to go?" You gave this wonderful opportunity to veterans who are comedians that were just getting their start. You said, "Hey, I'm doing these comedy spots." You were doing, I think it was Virginia Beach, Boston, and I don't remember the other one.
Syracuse and Richmond.
And Richmond, yeah. And you said, "I want ASAP veterans who literally just started doing comedy to open for me, to perform with me." That was huge of you to do, and it opened that up for so many people to have an opportunity of a lifetime. I took the chance. I went up to Boston with you. We performed. You changed my set in a very simple way. You heard me do it once, and you said I had this one joke about missing the finger. And you said, like, you said, "Oh, I get such a good reaction," but it's like buried in the middle of the set. You're like, open with that. Let that be the opener. Just break the ice, get a quick laugh. But as soon as I did that, it changed the flow of my set. The set all of a sudden gets funnier because people are rolling from the very beginning of it. So that was you. That was your feedback. And then it was a couple months later, I get an inbox request for the comedian, the veteran comedian, CQ. We want you on WTF Nation Radio. I'm like, wait, what? Why would anyone care about me? And they go, "Well, we just interviewed PJ Walsh, and he talks so highly about the ASAP program. And when we looked it up, we found you, and the rest is history." We did the interview. It was a great time. It's out there. You guys can listen to it if you want to. But after that, this whole kind of spun out of that. So all this awesome stuff that's happening in my life is really thanks to you. So I really, let me first just say thank you very much, because it's a big part of you.
Well, look, I think here's a big thing, and I appreciate that, dude. You're one of the best guys I know. You're natural for it. You're extremely funny. You're also an owner of your story and your own experience that happened to you, which is just there's an amount of courage that you have, even though you're silly and all this stuff. So I respect that tremendously. But you get an opportunity, you executed it. You know, so I said you were a great guy to spend time with. So. I mean, it's just easy to go point in your direction. I think there are two types of people in the world. There are people who work the room, and then there are people who people want to introduce you to the room. And that's where you fell into the you need to meet this guy.
Oh, I appreciate that. But we're not here to talk about me. We're not here to talk about me. Okay, we can talk about me all the time, but we're here to talk about you, man. You. And one of the things I did want to touch on, and you kind of alluded to it, you got to be in a movie. You got to be in the movie Delta Farce. Yes. I mean,
yes, I was in.
Tell me about that, please.
Sure. Larry the Cable Guy's Delta Farce. I was. It's pretty funny. Like I'm a medic at the end. Like Bill Engvall gets shot in the butt and the ass, and Larry comes up and I go. He goes, "Is he okay?" And I go, "He got shot in the ass. He'll be fine." And that was it. That was my line. So here's the deal with that movie. Since I was a kid, all I wanted to do was be in a movie. Right. So the movie. The movie's released on the weekend, and I'm doing a comedy club in some comedy club on the weekend. And it was in Columbia, Missouri. That's where it was, Columbia, Missouri. I'm at the gym over the weekend. I'm driving back from the gym, and on the marquee, I see Delta Farce. And I'm like, you know what? Let me go in and see myself in a movie theater. Like, this is going to be, like, what I've always dreamed. So I pull up. Now, I had watched the movie about 5 or 6 times. On the tour bus with Larry. He played it a bunch of times. It is an awful movie. I'm in it, and it's painful to get through. So I get to the movie theater, and I see a kid behind the counter. I go, "Hey, can I get a ticket to Delta Farce?" He's like, "Oh, it's already started. It's been about an hour." I go, Perfect. I'm at the end. I just want to get in there and watch it. He goes, and the kid goes, "Oh, I don't know if I could let you watch it." And I go, "Well, I'm a comedian. I'm in the movie. I'm playing the club. Can I please get in?" He goes, "Let me get my manager." So the manager comes. And I go, he goes, "Can I help you?" I go, "I'm in this movie. I want to go see it." He goes, "Yeah, no problem." So I give him like $7.50. I go inside the theater, including myself. There's a total of 5 people there. 5. Mm-hmm. I want to go back outside and go, "You need my money. Why would you even turn me down?" So inside the theater, there is a father and son sitting in the front. And then in the back is a little old man in a wheelchair. And there was a woman with him, like escorting him. So the movie's playing. My part comes up. I look around. Nobody cares. I say my line. Got shot in the butt. He'll be fine. I'm like, "Hey, that was me." Nobody cares, right? And then I wait to the end, and the credits start to roll, just so I can see my name in the credits. And the father and son get up and leave. And then I get up. I see my name. I'm like, "Oh, dude, that's my dream. All right, just came through." I'm walking out. The little old man in the wheelchair, he's still there, and he's dying laughing. He's just in his wheelchair going, "Ah!" So I stop in front of him. I go, "Sir, did you enjoy the movie?" And he goes, "No, that was terrible." And I go, "Oh," because I was in it. At the end, I was a medic who patched up Bill Engvall's ass. I'm like I would say, "He got shot in the ass. He'll be fine." And he looks at me, and he looks at the screen, and he looks at me again. He goes, "That was you, wasn't it?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Son, I wouldn't tell anybody."
Jesus, this guy should be a comedian. He's hilarious.
Dude, and then another great story about that movie is I think you know about this. In 2007, I've done a lot of trips overseas, entertaining trips. It's always been like, I think 2002 was my first one, and a lot of trips to Iraq and Afghanistan. And then in 2007, I ended up in a C-130 flying over Afghanistan with a bunch of flag-draped coffins. So it was about 5.5 hours of silence I will feel for the rest of my life. I mean, just riding with that, and then we did a removal ceremony, and it was the first time I stood in parade rest since I was in the military. It was powerful. So I left. I came back from that trip, and I had this mindset where I was just like, look, I communicate for a living. I want to tell that story. I want to represent whoever was in underneath those colors. Like, that's my story. Like, that could easily have been me. ISIS served. So I left stand-up for 2 years and went to theater school just so I can communicate the hard stuff and create a one-man show. So I went to William Esper School of Acting in New York City. William Esper was just very, like, he was Sanford Meiser's assistant. Very, I mean, just theater. And I had to do this interview for it. And so I'm sitting down in an interview with him, and he says, so PJ, have you been in any television and film? And I said, I was in Larry the Cable Guy's Delta Farce. And he goes, well, we only can go up from there.
You got to have a sense of humor about this stuff, right? I mean, you have to.
Oh, dude, yeah, you gotta. I used to get text messages from my friends from the Navy. They'd be like, unfortunately, you're on Comedy Central right now.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, and you know what, though? I feel like, for those that are going to like bust balls about it, I mean, you still have done something that few people will ever get to experience, I'm
like, I think life is about moments. Like, you can't take away, you can either be rich in the bank or you can be rich with moments. And I have so many incredible, like, my friends used to say, you're like Forrest Gump. Like, when I was a kid, I met Mother Teresa. I worked on the president. Like, my 6 degrees of separation is ridiculous. And they're just, things. Like, at the end of the day, whenever I meet my maker, my last days I just really want to go, all right, man, I rode this thing till the wheels came off. And it's not about fame, or I think fame is useful. I like to pack houses. I definitely like to, like, that would be all great, but that's never been my driving thing. Like, when I'll remember what you just told me 10 minutes ago, and the fact that somehow my journey got you into a place where you're very thankful and thriving. Absolutely. That means more than anything else. Plus, like, if I'm in a movie, I want the old man to tell me how horrible it is. That's the way it should be for me. It can't be good. I can't walk all the way up the stairs. I got to get up the stairs and knock back down. That's what makes you a comedian.
Right. You trip over that last one and go all the way back to the bottom. That's the way to
all
do
the way to the bottom, man.
Very nice. Which, okay, I was going to say,
for me, that's my favorite moments.
Right. Yeah. Right. No, and here you're telling the story about how you went into the theater, and again, the comedic brain in me is going, like, you said, I pay, the guy told you that there was an hour left, and me, I'm going, oh, the perfect joke is, all right, I'll be back in 45 minutes. And then you leave to come back to it for when you get to catch the end. But that's just that comedic part where you're like, I'm always thinking of, like, what's the funniest line? What's the funniest outcome of this situation? But that seems to be your life.
Oh yeah. My favorite moments in comedy for myself are the ones where I'm trying to do something really good and I'm just in the moment where I'm like, how did this happen? So my favorite part, one of my favorite stories is one of my friends came out to me. It's gay. Like, I had no idea. Like, I had known him for years and years, had no idea that he was gay. And it's an honor that he came out to me. Sure. So he starts crying, and at first, honestly, I thought he was dying. I was like, oh man, is he dying? What's going on here? And then he's like, hey man, I've been struggling with this. I'm gay. And I go, dude, you're only gay? I thought you were dying. I started a GoFundMe page for you. What are you, nuts? Like, oh, who cares? Like, life is short. Be gay. Do what you got to do. I totally support you. And then he goes, oh, thanks, PJ. All right, just so you know, just so you're comfortable, I'm not attracted to you at all. I was like, dude, I don't care if you're gay. Just don't be a dick about it. Like,
what a backhanded compliment right there. Yeah. I feel comfortable enough to tell you that I'm gay and I find you hideous.
There's nothing. Nothing makes me more limp than this silence in your face, PJ. But, like, for me, comedically, that's the greatest moment where I'm like, oh, dude, I was being a good friend. How? What?
Why do we have to turn this into an ugly thing, right? Why do we have to get ugly with this?
Wasn't I doing a right thing here?
One of the worst compliments I've ever had is a friend from high school reached out, Facebook generation. We reached out and was a lesbian in high school, and still a lesbian. I mean, is a lesbian, but wrote to me, and she's, I'm catching up. She goes, I have to tell you, I had the biggest crush on you in high school. And at first I was like, oh, that's so sweet. Like, that's so nice. And I'm like, wait a minute. You're like a hardcore lesbian. Like, you're really only into girls. So does that mean I'm like the ugliest guy or you know what I mean? Like the prettiest guy you've ever seen? Or my brain started scrambling to try to understand, was like, I'm a really ugly girl or I'm a really good looking guy. I don't know, but yeah,
you can't have the answer. You don't want whatever the answer is. It's not going to be good.
It's not gonna feel good either way. But yeah, and then see you again. You kind of cut me into what I wanted, something else I wanted to talk about. So like you talked about all this stuff. You talked about the performing for the troops. You've done that a bunch of times. I mean, what is it about? I mean, it's odd, right? We always do hear the same, like, oh, it's such an honor and this, but what really gets you going back and wanting to put yourself in clearly in harm's way? I mean, obviously they try to be as safe as they can, but I mean, you're in a combat zone as a civilian. What makes you want to go out there and do that?
Well, it's where it started for me. It's going home. Like when I was in the Navy, all my Navy friends, those are the ones who I'd sit at the lunch table and start making them laugh. When I was in A school, everyone would line up and the head of the class would be like, yo, Walsh, why don't you tell those stories? And they'd put me up on this like rocks or whatever it was, and I'd be above everybody. And it was almost like it was a comedy club, just making people laugh. So to me, they gave me the gift, or they let me know this thing that I had that I can nurture. That not only did the Navy just give me a lot of tools, and some of my best friends are still my best friends to this day, but it also narrowed down and nurtured what I have to contribute. My father's a plumbing contractor, and he's the hardest worker I've ever seen in my life. Like he's from Ireland. I'm first generation. Both my parents came here, and I used to go down, and he'd work in New York City, and he'd bring me down when I was a kid, and I'd watch him look at the pipes and stuff, and I'd see his brain working, and then he'd look at me, and it wasn't, my brain was not, I was like, there's just pipes to me, bro. I got no idea. I got nothing. Right. But then when I got into comedy, when my friends pushed me into comedy, I saw my brain work the way my dad's worked in with those pipes. Right. So if it wasn't for my friends and the Navy and that structure, I don't know if I would have had that. So going back is just, I just see myself in all the men and women. And I also know that I was very fortunate with my experience in the military. I had a bit of a scare, like with the first Gulf and field medical school and all that. But for the most part, I was very fortunate, and I'm incredibly aware of my good fortune. So for me to go over and bring them a little bit of home is the very least I can do. And then to bring you guys out, like the big thing about having you guys come out and open for me, my wife and I talked about it, and she did a lot of the work on it, which was just to get you guys your first comedy paycheck, because that's like the biggest thing, So at the end of those shows, I knew like, well, whatever we do here, I can cut you guys a check, because I remember driving home with my very first check to get paid to tell jokes. So I think people care. I always try to say, like, of course, I try to do as much as I can. Most of the stuff I do is veteran connected, be it an athletic sport event or comedy or some arts program. Because it's what I care about. I try to tell people that all the time. But whatever you care about, not everybody's gonna care about it on the same level you care about it. Yeah. So for me, I'm like, this is the niche. This is the area I am. This is where I feel incredibly grateful, and where I get to speak my own language. It's like I have a friend who's a Christian comedian. When he gets into church, he's like, there's a language he speaks that I don't speak. And he said, when you're with the troops, there's a language you speak that nobody else speaks. So, so there's a secular world where you can get to do all the regular stuff, but when I'm back with the troops and people who serve, there's just something about someone who goes into a room, puts their hand up, and they're willing to give their life for everybody else. It's the last pure, rare thing we have, and and I don't have to tell you, you're one of the most inspirational, cool people I know, and you've what I love about you, and you and I get on Skype and we talk comedy and stuff. Oh yeah. What happened to you? You've taken so much ownership of it. You're making jokes about it now. And, I remember, I have a joke I never gave you that we were working on, and I never even got to tell you. And I'll tell you what it is. Yeah, do it. We were talking about how you were shot 5 times, and, the first time it's just like, oh, I was shot. The second time it's just like, oh man, I can't go shot again. Third time it's kind of like, this is getting personal. Do they know me? Like, is that like girl I dated over there or something? And I remember you and I telling you that, and you died laughing. And that's what I also love about veterans and people who've been through things, because it also inspires me to go, look, I I have to work harder. I of course I have my days where I complain, but I have so many people in my phone who are like, no, man, like I'm fighting through this. So it makes me go, yeah, man, I just find you're one of the people in my orbit that inspire me to keep trucking up.
Wow. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. I mean, it's again, I owe a lot of what I have right now because of obviously a lot. There's a lot, right? Because like you said, getting injured, okay, there's doctors and medics and physical therapists and all that. And then, my wife and my family that supported me and then amazing program, Wounded Warrior Project and then ASAP and then finding ASAP. And, because even as good as I got physically and kind of even like emotionally, I kind of got to a good place, but then comedy comes in and it brings that I don't know, it's that X factor. It's that thing that lets you, I like to say like you take control of your narrative, right? The story happens the way you want it to happen. You're not lying. You're having fun with it. It's exaggerating. It's a misdirect. It's a you know what I mean. It's a sleight of hand. It's a magician. Your story becomes a magical prop that you get to play with. It was a freeing experience to say that not these things didn't just now happen to me. But it's almost in a way that I don't know. It's just something to play with, and it made it fun. And there's not a lot of gifts in life that you can get like that.
Man, and I've been incredibly fortunate to be able to participate in the arts and in comedy in that field. With golf, I've seen it happen with golf, and then adaptive athlete adventure races, and it's just some of the strongest, most inspirational people I've been around, and also being in the entertainment business. All of a sudden I'm in the green room, somebody's like, I didn't get a call back. I'm like, kiss my ass. So it's pretty funny because when you get the perspective of, and that's the other thing about the troops is I'm fully aware every single day that there's somebody out there living uncomfortably, so I can have this conversation with you. Absolutely. So we can tell jokes, so we could joke around. And that's with me 24/7. So, there's that.
Oh, that's true. And then you actually, you hit it's like you're reading off of my note card. I swear to God, because the next bullet point is, I wanted to go, I found
like a stroke fest. Stop telling me things I've done.
Adventure Team Challenge. Tell us about that. I found some pretty interesting stuff about that. So tell the audience about it.
Well, I mean, it's done by World Team Sports, which is an amazing organization. And my friend Patty reached out to me. Actually, she saw me on American Ninja Warrior. And she saw me on there and just kind of like what I had, because I did the military one, and one of my best friends, did a speech at my wedding. It was Matt Eisman, the host of American Ninja Warrior. And he, they were doing a military version. He was like, you need to do this. You should do this. And I gotta be honest with you, it was the scariest thing I ever did in my life. He kind of guilted me social media wise. Like I had no choice. I had to do it. The producers called me, all this stuff. But the thing about that I really enjoyed about the reason I did Ninja Warrior is because I trusted them with my story. Ninja Warrior only makes heroes. There's a lot of TV opportunities I got, which I would have been like, I didn't trust them with my story. They're always making villains, this, that. But Ninja Warrior, I totally trusted, and they did a really great job with the package they did on me. And at the end, I just got to thank everybody who served and all the family members and stuff like that. And then she saw that and reached out to me about this Adventure Team Challenge, which is a race in Colorado every September, a 2-day race, and it's teams of 5, and it's 3 able-bodied and 2 adaptive athletes and 1 in the wheelchair, and you work together as a team. So up to that point, I'd never worked with any adaptive athletes, or what they would say handicap. I'm like, that's not the word, man. These people are not handicapped. They are badasses. And it was the most inspirational, hard, amazing weekend I've ever had in my life. And I just walked away just really changed as a person. It was like one of them. It was like the C-130 moment for me, where I'm sitting in at these, like, there are moments in your life that are forks in a road that just change you as a human. And that weekend was that. And, it came to me from a failure, because I only got the 3rd object on Ninja Warrior. I wasn't never going to be a Ninja Warrior. I just embraced the challenge. And even though that happened, it led to this thing that I've been doing it for the past 5 years. It's my favorite weekend of the year. My wife is doing it. My brother-in-law was on my team one time. Now he has his own team, and the people are just so damn cool, man. It's just so cool. So that's that's what I take a look at it. It's a world team sports. They do a lot of great things for veterans, but not just, and it just wasn't veterans. There's also, everyone has incredible stories,
right,
that lead there. Yeah. And that's the favorite part too, is you sit around a campfire and you're just talking to people, and very dark sense of humor, man, which is just great for comedy too.
It's so good, man. I tell people all the time, when you're put in the most traumatic things in life, you have two options. You're going to laugh about it or you're going to cry about it. That's it. And those that can laugh about it have some of the most fucked up, twisted senses of humor that are just so good. I talk about, a lot of times when I got injured, I was in the hospital, I died twice, and, I was shot up and I was banged up, and, woe is me. And I was going through all the stuff that normal people go through, and why me and this and that. And then I met a guy who had lost his legs and had lost an arm, and what little of his other arm he had left was kind of like almost like a lobster claw pincher thing. And he went around he went like ward to ward in the hospital and in his motorized wheelchair, and would have people dying of laughter, like just dying, like the funniest guy I've ever met in my life. He would have to be removed from rooms because people were busting their stitches, literally busting stitches. And in that moment, I realized if anyone has room to complain and hate life and why, like, that's the guy, not me. And so if he can laugh about it, if he can have a positive attitude about it, who the fuck am I to sit here and be self-pitying about anything? So that was my aha moment where I'm like, oh, no, I can't be that guy. I have to, I'm so appreciative that I'm here and every opportunity. And I just wanted to say, you with American Ninja Warrior, which, by the way, I remember watching that military episode, and I do remember you in it well before I met you, and thinking to myself, I wonder if I could do, obviously not now with me all busted up, but I was like, man, in my heyday, in my infantry days, airborne, I think I could.
I wish it was around in my heyday, because I was old when I got there.
Yeah.
So, but what's funny that you've got, it's just something I always keep in mind. No matter what happened to you, there's always, I remember there's a buddy of mine was giving a speech, and he has 2 Purple Hearts, and he wraps his speech up at the end going, "I'd feel special if Steve didn't have 4." So it's like, you're sitting there going, no matter what happened to you, there's somebody out there has got it worse. And, so that's another part that makes me laugh, especially, and if you go a couple years ago, my original Facebook page, the PJ personal one, I deleted that during the Obama-Romney election. That's how far ahead I was. And then I just started adding people that from the Armed Services Art Partnership or Tee It Up for Troops or the Adventure Team Challenge, right? And most of my friends are all disabled athletes or people going through things. So, if you look at my Facebook friends, you would think I sell prosthetics or something. You would really think, all right, what's this? Is this guy like a doctor?
I think it's because you have a fetish. I'm just gonna put it out there. You have like an amputee fetish, or I don't know, you like bullet holes or something. That's your thing, man. It's cool. We don't judge here on Pop Culture Warrior. We don't judge. Everyone is included. So no worries.
You know what? I don't know. You might be onto something.
But real quick though, the American Ninja Warrior thing. You've obviously done it a few times. And like you said, you never saw yourself, completing the Mount Midoriyama. But I have to ask, do you see any semblance of, we've talked about kind of how you see your life, and that I can't succeed. The best thing that could happen is that I fail, because that's almost the funnier story.
Well, I don't think there's such thing as failure. I think there's failure is not even trying. that's what so if you try, there's always something you can get out of it. You can just pick yourself back up. Now with like Ninja Warrior, it totally led to things, but the challenge for me was it was the most nervous I've ever felt. And it wasn't like stand up to me. It was a completely different beast. And that's where I had to go, okay, you gotta do this. But I also really loved the ninjas. I also loved the training. And, I was in 40s at the time. But it really helped me a lot to just get my body back to where I wanted to be. Yeah. So, yeah, it was just a different challenge. And for stand-up, I had been doing it for a while. But that's what brings me back to you guys, like the ASAP crew, because I get to meet people who are super excited about stand-up. And it can be very easy for me not to be excited anymore.
Sure, you get jaded over time.
I have friends who aren't. They've been doing it for a long time. But when much like, when I try to keep in that mindset of like, there's people out there keeping me safe, living uncomfortably. Well, there are young comics who are very, very excited about comedy. And so I get excited seeing that. And it also it starts to fire up in me again.
I think that's great. I throw my hat in. I mentor some of the new classes.
Awesome.
I never pretend to be. I'm a touring comedian and all this. I've been on a couple stages. I was very lucky. I got to perform for former President Jimmy Carter at one of his things. So like I've had these wonderful experiences, and I just try to like you. I get excited talking to the new class, the new cohort that comes through, and like, oh my God, you're gonna love this. I geek out about comedy, right? That's why when I said I wanted to do a pop culture show, maybe traditionally comedy's not pop culture, but to me, it's part of it. It's part of the popular culture of today, and it's important to me because I love it. I gotta ask. So we've talked about a bunch of stuff, and we talked about you working with ASAP. Comedy. You've been in the game for a while now, and do you have any? And I know because I've asked for me. Now I want you to tell it for the audience. Like, do you have advice for people that are considering comedy? Do you have advice for people that think, this might be something that I want to do?
Get on stage. Plain and simple. Just get on stage. If you think you want to do it, jump on the stage. And if you're going to pursue it, nobody knows anything. It's school of hard knocks, and you just keep trucking on. And, people can give you advice, but nobody really knows what the map is. It's just grinding and grinding and grinding. And for me personally, I love stand-up. Like the fact that I can't do it right now. Like this is the longest I've ever gone without doing stand up. I mean, I'm a professional comedian. I go on stage. It's like working out to me. It's an outlet. And I just to see how the world's going to be once we come out of this. Like there's something I always call a laugh or laughter to me is the surprise recognition that we're not alone. And that's what I really love about comedy. And when I get to make a room lean forward and collectively be in sync and for those moments, and I try to keep my comedy is not super specific. Like I love when my audience is totally mixed with everyone, men, women, gay, black, white, Asian, everybody. Like my comedy, like I love it going across the boards, and when everyone's leaning in together, it's my favorite thing. And I'm definitely during this time, I'm looking back going, man, I've always been really good at trying to appreciate the moments and what I have. But this has really hit me back going, man, when I get back to the stand-up stage, I am going to savor every single laugh from this point forward because it's such a huge part of my life and the world. And it's not the biggest, most important in the whole aspect of what's happening in the world, but it's my little corner. And
let me ask you this.
Yeah, man, I really miss it.
Let me ask you this. So the past couple of weeks, obviously, COVID-19, we're all sick of talking about it. But here in the show, we've been talking about how, my hope coming out of this is that we see a renaissance of the arts. We see people, and this applies to movies, comics, video games, whatever it is artistically, that people have now had time to sit and think and create and think outside the box and really push themselves to what, you know what I mean? Everybody's trying to do like something unique. People are trying the Facebook Live comedy shows and all these different things. What do you speculate? Do you see something that might come? What positive do you see coming out of all this?
Well, I think family spending time together is definitely a positive. I think a lot of people are realizing, oh man, I haven't taken enough walks with my wife or my parents or this, or I haven't. I think when we've been on deployments, and deployments do something to you, like for the military people right now, they're kind of like, okay, so I'm locked in place and they're telling me what to wear when I go outside and when to go outside. Okay, I get that. But when I think of like, you're the first person, this is the first thing I've done throughout this whole entire thing. Like I'm working on a podcast with Sam Pressler, who was the founder of ASAP, and him and I have been working really hard on a podcast that's going to be released, I think this week. But for the most part, I've been getting to spend time with my wife. I travel a lot. This is the most time I got to spend with her in the past 3 years. And so I'm very, very fortunate. Again, I'm very fortunate where I used to live in New York City, so I'm paying attention to everything that's happening there. I was born in New York City. So I'm paying attention to everything that's happening, but I'm also looking at this as this is the most time I got to spend with my wife. We got married in August, and the most time we spent together in the past 3 years. Wow. So I'm trying to focus on that kind of stuff. And I think for a lot of people, they're starting to realize, like, I miss my sisters. I miss my parents. We could do FaceTime. We could do Zoom and all that stuff. But there's nothing like giving them a hug. And I think we're going to come out of that and we're just going to realize how valuable touch is, how valuable it is to just embrace somebody, and for me, that's something I'm looking at. I remember the first time a grown man hugged me. It was when I was in the military. Like I grew up Irish. Like we didn't touch each other. And it was Mike Jennings. Like he got off a plane and he goes, "Yo, Walsh," and he gives me this huge bear hug. And I was just like, what is this? Yeah. So I think that's something people are coming out of. And then as far as entertainment goes, we'll get back to it. It's just going to take a little bit of time, probably, because 50% of people will be like, I don't care, I'm going in. And 50% will be a little bit gun shy, but eventually we'll get there because everybody's creative and people appreciate creativeness. I mean, my father creative as a plumber, landscapers, comedians and writers. So, creativity is always going to thrive in some fashion, and getting people in a room together for theater, music, stand-up, we'll get back there.
All right. Another question for you. I know being a veteran, we get asked some of the stupidest, most ridiculous questions. Oh, did you kill someone? Oh, did you see someone die? All this stupid, like, you should never ask. So you have an interesting, obviously, take on it as being a both veteran and comedian. What's been the most annoying question to you as a comedian? What's the question that bugs the shit out of you when people ask?
Oh, you know what? I think all comics do this. When after you do a show, somebody asks you about whoever the hot comic in a moment is. Do you know so-and-so? Have you heard so-and-so? And it's always like a dismissive thing of like, yeah, I have, but you're dealing with me right now, you prick. So like all comics behind the scenes just kind of like, yeah, of course I do. I'm in the business. I'm paying attention. Of course I know who is doing, and you always feel good for them. But I think that's kind of like the get or done thing, where I think there's a little bit of that. But I think the question that annoys me, but when people ask me, did that really happen? Like when I talk about when I worked in the White House and I break it down, I have all the jokes and there's the callbacks and all that, and then I'll get off stage and they'll be like, "Did you really work in the White House?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I just made up that 20 minutes just to fill some time." But I mean, that's the dynamic of the kind of comic. I'm a springboard from things that happen to me. Then there are other comics who just do jokes, and they can have your grandfather could be alive even if they didn't have a grandfather. There's just different kind of comics, and I'm I'm just one that comes more of a storyteller and life experience one.
And speaking of that,
so question about the military too. But
yeah,
have you ever killed somebody? I always go not in like the past hour.
You had a great You had a great line. I remember hearing about was it about gingivitis? Like I killed 17 people slowly with gingivitis, something like that. Didn't you have a line like that?
Yeah. I was with Marines overseas. I go and trained as a dental technician. I killed 7 guys with gingivitis. Took 23 years, but I got them pricks.
I love that. It's such a silly premise, but it works.
People like, yeah, that's the thing I always say all the time too. The other joke you remind me of when they go, "Have you been to war?" I go, "Yeah, the war on plaque."
See, that's good. That is good, clean, funny right there. And I gotta say about watching you perform, what got me. You say you're this springboard from, your truth and the story, but like, I feel like you're a springboard in real life in that you bounce around that stage with such energy and like, I was out of breath watching you perform comedy. Like there was a moment you were in the back of the audience and are sprinting to the stage. I was like, I get tired standing on stage, and here you are doing dive bombs off of it.
Man, I think it just comes from my dad. My dad was a plumbing contractor, and I used to do all that work with him. And just in my mindset is, if I'm not sweating, I'm not working. So for me, just to sit there, like I don't mind doing like this and talking, and everything's been really small with like Zoom and all those kind of things now, and that's a whole different beast. But like, for me, comedy is like a title fight, like a crack the neck, and you go in and an audience is like, an audience. People are like, are you very comfortable? I'm like, you're comfortable, but you got to be prepared, because audience are animals. Like, you got to remember the tiger bites back.
That's right.
Siegfried and Roy, he forgot the tiger bites.
Yeah, you can't get comfortable.
To me, that's one of, I can't get too comfortable, but I do like, I like to know that I'm working. I like to know that I'm moving around. And I'm from New York, and I was a wrestler and a gymnast, so it doesn't really, like, I'm a mover. For me to stand there with just a mic and a stand would be very, very tough. But that's why I did my one-man show. My one-man show was much more controlled like that. It was a totally different way of it was acting as opposed to stand-up. So
right on. Let me ask you, what do you have? Is it okay? Because as trying to do comedy, because I try to formulate here, because I write jokes, and anytime I get inspiration, I write it down. There are these times where these things will happen, and I'll go, oh my God, this is gonna make for an excellent joke. But like, you sit down, you write, and for whatever reason, you just can't make the joke work the way. Have you ever had that? Have you ever had that? Like, I'm just curious if you had a joke that, like, you're so desperate, you want to use it, you love it, the idea of it, whatever, but you just couldn't make it work?
Oh, wait, one? So many. So many.
Do you have a favorite?
There are so many jokes that, but what happens with those jokes, I always feel like if it's funny, just, I have like just boxes and boxes of notes and for over the years, and I tape every single set still to this day. But what I always go, if I can't make it work, it doesn't mean it's not ready now. It's like, maybe I'm not ready for it. Maybe I haven't figured out what it needs to go with, or maybe I haven't grown into it, or maybe I've grown out of it. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't fit. So to me, I just put it in a mental filing cabinet, or write it in the book, and then maybe 2 years down the line, or even 5 years down the line, something else comes up, and I'm like, oh, that's what this will go with, or I know how to tell it better. Right. For me, the White House, I mean, I was always like, people were like, why don't you talk about the White House? When I was like, when I first started stand up, and it just wasn't working, because for some reason I just didn't talk about it, because it just didn't work. And then part of the reason I created a one-man show was to tell that story, because I thought it was amazing that I got top secret clearance. I worked on the president. I used to walk into when I was a kid, if you showed me a picture of the White House and the moon, they were the same distance. I wasn't getting to either of those. And then I was walking in there, right? Like, and so I wanted to tell that story. So I don't, it's,
It's tough, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We
Yeah,
call
that's a tough
that when we do the classes with the new guys, we'll call it, putting in the compost bin, right? You're recycling it. You put it there, it'll be there. You'll come back to it, and it'll be useful later. Do you have any like superstitions? Some people have to read their set before going on, or drink a certain beverage. Do you have anything like that before you go on or after?
I double tie my shoes.
Double tie your shoes. Interesting.
Yeah, because I did a mime kick one time, my shoe went flying across the room.
Yeah,
I don't even remember. I think some guy grabbed it like midair and threw it back.
Oh, that's fantastic. So there you go.
I do that, and then also that's pretty much that's the main one. And then I always try to take about a half hour before and be in my own zone and just try to get into the mindset of how much I appreciate that I get to do comedy right now. Like when I first started, I had so many different jobs. I had a billion different jobs, and every time that I got to get on the stand-up stage, I used to say to myself, I'm getting to be a comedian for the next 7 minutes. I get to be a comedian for the next 10 minutes. I've been working all week, but this is what I really, really want to do. So now that I am a professional comedian, I try to also make sure like I'm getting to be a comedian for the next hour. I just try to get back to that place of just appreciating the fact that I get to do this.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I respect that so much. Again, something we try to impart on the younger comedians is like, look, guys, okay, you've done this 6 weeks, you're ready, you're gonna go to show night. There are different, like people are different in how they'll approach showtime, right? Because you're gonna have the guy that can be chit-chatting and drinking away until the second he steps on the stage, and you're gonna have the people that are in the corner like rocking back and forth, clutching themselves, like needing that process to get through the anxiety or breathing in a bag, whatever. I'm the type that like I will just keep going over the set list. Like I'll have my bullet points and I'll go over it and I'll work it out in my head, and then, but also like that last 5 minutes, try to, okay, put it aside. I've done the best I can, smile, look around. Like you said, just look around and be like, wow, I'm in the moment, and then boom, hit the stage and enjoy it.
Man, when I was touring with Larry the Cable Guy, this used to be my favorite thing. I used to call it the walk, right? It was so at the height, I lived on there were 2 tour buses. I was on one of the tour buses, and my favorite part, and to this day, this is still my favorite part of all of it, is I would be sitting in the back, and it would be about, right before showtime, and we'd be in an arena, and in the arena, there's like 20,000 people, right? Lights are on, this is it. And I'm in the back of the tour bus, and I'm putting on my boots, got my jeans on, the whole like tomato uniform. And then the tour manager and a concert promoter would come and knock on the door of the tour bus. And they go, PJ, you ready? And I'm like, yeah. And I'd come through the tour bus, and I'd step off the tour bus, and each of them would be on either side of me. And we'd start walking, from the parking lot into the venue, and I'd be walking past like all the wires and all the cases that have all the electrical equipment, and then you walk into the back of the arena, and then I'd walk up to the back, and you see the huge stage and these huge curtains, and you'd hear the audience just people right, and then the lights would drop. And then somebody would go up and be like, hey, you guys ready for, and I'd hear that roar, and I know, like, this is it. This is the fight. They don't know who I am, blah, blah, blah. And so I would just be geared up and just fired up. It was my favorite part. And Dyke would be like, hey, you guys ready for Larry the Cable Guy? Yeah. But first, but I always loved that challenge that I have to walk up for the next 20 minutes. I got to make these 20,000 people or 16,000 people like me. I had to do my thing, and I always felt it was the purity of the sport at that time, because no one knew who I was, and they were clearly there to see Larry the Cable Guy, which is a whole nother like thing to shoulder, to have like, so to have that many fans and all the stuff. But I try to always figure out to appreciate that, and that walk was always it. And I still love that walk from the hotel into the club and seeing all the cars in the parking lot, and then just like walking in there and just seeing everybody, and just that energy that's going, and I'm just like, okay. And then once they say your name, the switch goes on, and it's just like I don't even think I with all this time and we're talking about it, it's just really making me realize again just how blessed and much I miss it, and how lucky I have been to be a comedian. So
yeah, no, I couldn't. I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing. I can't imagine. I can't put my own mental state in there. My walk was, DC Improv, the 6 feet to the stage, but that's awesome.
Yeah. But my challenge now is that I want to be the other guy now. Like, so the work I want to do is to get my own tour. I love living on a tour, but I love traveling, and sure. And now I'm married, and so that was a whole nother different thing, because I used to just appreciate doing comedy, and it was all fine and dandy, go everywhere. But now, for the past, now that I have my wife, and she means so much to me. Like, when I'm off, she's not with me, so there's a big part of me that's not there anymore. So that's been something I've had to wrap my brain around a little bit of. Like, I've never been in a situation where I'm doing comedy, but always at the same time really miss somebody.
Sure. Yeah,
like no one's ever been that important to me, oddly enough. Or I haven't been that important to anybody. So.
Either way you slice it. There was a question from the crowd. I know we've been chatting for over an hour now, so I'm not going to keep you too much longer. But the question from Wallbreaker on Facebook, he says, he goes, everything you're saying is cool. By the way, they say you're killing it tonight, like literally, because Facebook keeps coming in and out, but that's fine. Do people in the crowd ever joke back with you? And I know as part of our comedic training, but I'll let you go ahead.
Oh, totally. Like, so I think I'm very approachable. I think my material is something I don't ever get like real jerks. Like, I don't get that. Like, that doesn't happen to me too often. I mean, clearly it's out there, but I think I touch on subjects where I just have a demeanor where they want to talk back to me. I also, I like improv. I like to be taken a different direction. Like, I'll have the spine of my material, but then I like to go off into a section. So I don't really mind that. And then as far as like hecklers I don't really think are always the funny thing about a heckler, this is the theory I have on hecklers, is if somebody throws something out in a room, what you usually do is you just repeat it, right? And then you look back at them, and then you, with that enough time, like if you put the focus back on, I usually kill them with kindness initially. You put the focus back on them, and then all of a sudden they don't really have a second one in your chamber. Now, and all of a sudden the light's on them, and people are looking at them, and their heart rate goes up. You can see their eyes get tight. Like, it's really kind of like, But at that point, like, my gun is loading, So that's usually how it goes. And then by the third time, you can take them out. But with somebody who's kind of on the rude side, I'll be nice until I hear somebody in the audience go, "Shut the fuck up." So once you hear somebody in the audience get annoyed, because they're not there to see that person.
Right.
They're there to see like me or whatever comedians on stage. Once you hear that, then you can pull out the Wolverine claws and just jam them in the neck, But nice. If you jam them in the neck before that, then you look insecure. But if you have enough patience and they get on the audience, they get them annoying, then you'll have the whole audience singing "Na na 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 goodbye" on the way out the door.
All right. We got... Does PJ know he occasionally sounds like Bill Burr when he gets excited? That's
probably, I guess, because I mean we're both from the Northeast. I'm from New York. He's from Boston, so I guess. Bit.
And one last question for you: does your stomach still flip before going on stage? I'm guessing like that's the butterflies. That's that excited energy.
Probably. It depends. If I don't think you ever know when. For me, you never know when the nerves are, because sometimes I'll be doing a show and I'll be like, "Why am I nervous?" Or if I'm not prepared, if I'm just not prepared, it probably then I'm like, "Oh man." But if I'm prepared and I've been, comedy is like being in the gym. So if you haven't been at it for a minute and you're about to go on, you probably have some. But usually, once you step on stage, the groove gets in. But I never want to feel totally comfortable.
I think if there's no like guttural connection to what you're doing, like that's when like you lose that sense of thrill of it, right? Like if it's emotionless, if you get up there and you're like, I did my thing and I walked off, it's like, it's like those people that you walk into the job for the paycheck, right? You punch in, you punch out. Like there's no connection to what you're doing. Like you should, as a comedian, you should always have that feeling, something on stage.
Right. Yeah, you totally. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, man, dude. We've been talking for over an hour. I thank you for bearing with me with our little.
What? No, dude. Absolutely, man.
A little
awesome.
snafu
It was
early.
great.
This has been so.
I'm gonna
awesome.
have to change my excitement talk now.
See, you're learning things, man. You're learning things. No, that you've been an absolute awesome guest, man. You are a rock star. Thank you for everything that you do for the veterans. You know, the like we said, the adaptive challenge stuff, the ASAP stuff, everything, dude. Everybody, if you're out there, you're listening to this. If you're listening to this live right now or to the recording, the podcast, you know, check out PJ Walsh. He is incredibly funny. Lots of good stuff that's out there. Catch him. Do you have anything planned for the future? You got anything in the works? Anything we want to promote? This is your chance to talk about yourself a little here at the end.
Oh, well, like, clearly all of my shows have been canceled. I think that's pretty much everybody. But, you know, Sam Pressler and I are launching a podcast called In Stitches. I think that's going to come out this week, and it's where we explore the humanity and humor. So Sam and I we'll probably have you on down the road here. And
absolutely,
we're just talking to a lot of really interesting people who have not just comedians, but people who use comedy or have experiences of comedy that kind of help them persevere and things like that. So that's been really what we've been working on for the past 3 weeks. So it's called In Stitches, and I think it'll be out on all forms on Thursday, hopefully, the very first episode. So
shoot me the link, man. I'll post it up on the website. You know, we'll put it up on WTF Nation Radio. We'll get it out there, man. You guys are awesome. What you're doing is awesome, and I want to support you any way I can because I think you're awesome. So, guys,
you're the best, and you're in the right spot, man. So whenever I see you live, I tune in and check it out for a while. I haven't commented yet because I'm usually invisible when it comes to social media. I got to pick up on that. I got to start doing more.
Yeah, man. Hey, I'm trying to hang out with these young kids with their TikToks and their click clocks and all that stuff. Trying to get more savvy with the social media. But guys, everybody in the chats, you know, give it up for PJ Walsh. He's been an awesome guest. Thank you, PJ, for stopping by. I hope we have you again real soon.
Oh yeah. All right, man.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you, bud. Take care.
See ya.